So let's say you go out and buy the world's most expensive microphone. Then you plug it into the world's most expensive and finest preamp, going into the world's most badass sought-after mixer, right? And then in the room, you put an artist who doesn't really know how to sing in front of that microphone, going into that preamp, going into that mixer. And to nobody's big surprise, I'm sure it's not going to sound all that great. All of that expensive equipment is not going to make a difference if the performance is bad. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is how much money should you really be spending on microphones? How many microphones do you need? Now, of course, I'm sitting here next to a case filled with microphones. I think there's probably, like, all things said and done, there's probably like 15 to 20 microphones in there of varying costs. I think the most expensive microphone in there is probably my DPA, and that's around $1,400. And all things considered, I don't even use it that much because that particular microphone really loves to be used in a awesome recording space, which I don't really have. But I keep the microphone around because one day maybe I'll have an awesome studio that sounds great. I mean, it's an amazing microphone on the Source, sure, but it does tend to capture a lot of the room, and my room doesn't sound awesome, so I tend not to use it. I like dynamic microphones a lot. You guys know this if you have watched my dynamic versus condenser microphones. I talk about it all the time, and acoustic treatment and proper acoustic treatment in any space is essential, right? So my most expensive microphone doesn't usually get used all that often. It's totally true. If I'm recording acoustic guitars or something, a good old SM57 will really blow your mind. Or something like what I'm using right now, the AKG 414, that is also a very, very good microphone in this space because it does capture a lot of my instrument and not so much of my room like my DPA. So what am I talking about here? Because now I've tangented out a little bit. I want you guys to understand that if you have an SM57 for an instrument microphone, you are doing awesome. The SM in SM57, 58, whatever, stands for studio microphone. And I want you guys all to remember that. Studio microphone 57, studio microphone 58, okay? If you have those two microphones and you can't make them sound good, then buying some expensive, crazy, beautiful condenser microphone is not going to solve your problem, okay? Listen, I represent occasionally some like big manufacturers. I've worked with AKG. I have worked with like Lewitt microphones and Avantone microphones and some really reputable microphone companies. So they're probably not going to be so excited about me making this video, but listen, it's totally true, you guys. If you can't make a 57 or a 58 sound good, that's not the microphone's fault. That's your fault. It's just like GarageBand. If you can't make GarageBand sound good, not GarageBand's fault. That's your fault, okay? So what you should do, okay? So let's talk about that. What can you do? You need to practice. You need to take lessons. You need to watch tutorials online. Let's take it specifically to singing. You need to learn some vocal exercises. You need to rehearse those vocal exercises. You need to do all that la 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 la. You know, and then you go up and down the scale. You need to warm up your voices. You need to do it 100,000 times. I mean, that number is very high, right? You need to do it a lot until you figure out what the secret recipe is for you, your space, and your voice. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I can guarantee you that if you put the time and the work and the homework into it, that you will get results. I do believe that pretty much everybody can sing with the proper teacher who, if you can find a great teacher, great vocal teacher, guitar teacher, bass teacher, whatever teacher, there are so many musicians out there who love to share their knowledge, just like me, with the people out there who are at the beginning of this process. Because when you get good at it and you start making music that sounds really great to you and to your friends and to your listeners, it is so rewarding. So it is absolutely positively worth it to put in all that time, all that work to get good at singing or playing guitar or playing the bass, whatever it may be. But, I see people complaining all the time, like the guitar sims on GarageBand don't sound good. Well, yeah, not GarageBand's fault. That's your fault as a guitar player. Or I can never make the bass sound good. That's not the Sims' fault. That's your fault. And it's not your fault. It's just sort of like it's your fault. It's just like you're not ready yet, right? If you need to understand, those are good simulated amplifiers. They're good, whatever. The presets are good. If you can't make that sound good, then you need more work. You need to work more on the performance. All this equipment, the microphones, the preamps, the whatever, all of that stuff is designed simply to capture a performance. If you give it a bad performance, well, that's what it gets, right? If you give it a good performance, then that's what it captures, that's what it preserves, and that's what you work on. So if you want to go out there, like right now, if you're somebody with like a really cheap condenser microphone and you're like, man, all I hear is like this room sound and blah, blah, blah. Well, fine. I understand that. You should watch my condenser versus dynamic microphones. I'll pop something up in the corner here for you guys to watch. If you haven't seen that video, it's a good one. But what you probably want to do is just get yourself a good old-fashioned SM58, which is by far my favorite inexpensive beginner's microphone. Beginners to advanced microphones. I have heard albums that have used only the 57 or the 58 on vocals and been like, man, that vocal tone is amazing. Tom Petty was famous for using the 57 in the studio and live all the time. There's nothing but like a long list of famous musicians who have sworn by these lesser expensive microphones. So rest assured, if you're one of those people with one of those microphones, it doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, come on, a 57 or 58, even if you buy them used, they're like $50 to $100. If you buy them brand new, it's like $100 to $150. I haven't checked prices lately on those microphones because I got a couple of them. But anyway, cheap microphones, they are less expensive than a lot of microphones, and they do an awesome job at it. So now let's say you do have a 57 and you do have a 58 and you have gotten to a point where it sounds good and you're like, I wonder what something else would sound like. Well then yeah, it's time to get a new microphone. That's when you do it. When you find the limitations of the equipment that you have, then that's when it's time to move on. But until you find those limitations, you need to work with what you have, work on your voice, work on your guitar playing, piano playing, whatever it is that you do. You gotta work, you gotta do the work, right? And practice is fun. I mean, we call it practicing, but really you're playing. I mean, that's my favorite thing about music in general. When I'm teaching, I'm still playing. I'm playing music. The playing is the active word there. That's the word that I always focus on, like when I used to teach a lot of guitar lessons and I would sort of like, I don't want to go do this. And I'd always remind myself, you're just going to go play. You're going to go with those people and you're going to go hang out with some cool kids and play. You're going to play music, and that's awesome. So find a way to make your regiment of practice more entertaining for yourself. Try to do it all the time because that's what it takes. You got to do it daily, even if it's 2 minutes a day. I know a guitar teacher out there that says to his students, hey, if you practice 1 minute a day, you will be so much better than if you practiced 0 minutes a day. Even 1 single minute a day will do it. Try to go for 4 or 5 maybe, but anything that you can do is going to make it better. So no, you don't need to go buy an expensive microphone. It's not going to help your recordings get any better. If you can't make a 57 or a 58 sound good, then you're not ready for a better microphone. Honestly, it's totally true. And I know all the companies that I've represented, if they happen to watch this video, are going to be like, hey, what the hell are you doing? We want to sell microphones. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good practice. I'm not here to in this video, I'm not trying to help companies make money. I'm trying to help you guys out there who are at the beginning of the recording process. I'm trying to get you guys to understand what it really takes, and it is not equipment. I swear to God, it is not the equipment. Yeah, sure, you need a decent microphone, like a 57 or a 58. You need a decent little preamp or an interface like a Focusrite 2i2 or whatever it may be. Sure, you need some basic equipment, but you don't need the most expensive equipment. That's the point of this entire video. It's up to you as the artist to make it sound good. It's not the equipment, it's you. And when you get to that limit, and when you get to that point, like I have already said before, I'm just gonna hit it one more time, When you get there with your 58 and you're like, I wish it was a little more this, or I wish it was a little more that. The performance is solid, but I wish it was had a little more brightness. Then yeah, maybe look for something like a 414 or the new Avantone CV12 BLA. That thing's amazing. But if you're a bad singer or a bad guitar player, that microphone is going to do nothing for you. So really, get to work, get to practice, find a way to make it fun, and I guarantee you that your recordings will get better. If you perform great, then the recordings will be great. That's it. That's it, okay? So you guys, hope you don't mind me just sort of ranting at you today. Hope you don't mind the sounds of cars going by. It's a beautiful, almost spring day here in Philadelphia, and I had the windows open and I'm loving it, so I didn't want to close them for this video because it was just too nice outside. I want the fresh air in here finally. Amazing. You guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting that like button. My patrons on my Patreon page, you guys are the backbone of this channel, and you are the ones really keeping me going here, and so I totally appreciate everyone's support. Thank you so much. Have an awesome weekend. Peace and love.